An email from Marcus Chin, the project manager on Riverside Commons. Subject line, urgent client issue. My heart sank. I opened it. Evelyn, I know you're not here anymore, but I didn't know who else to contact. The client called this morning. They're saying the foundation inspection failed. They want to know what happened and what we're doing to fix it. Michael told me to handle it, but I don't have the authority to make decisions on this level. The client is threatening to halt all payments until this is resolved. Please call me. I read it 3 times. A foundation inspection failure on Riverside Commons wasn't just a problem, it was a catastrophe. That project was our flagship. If it failed inspection, it meant structural issues. It meant delays. It meant potential lawsuits. And Michael had no idea how to handle it. I called Marcus immediately. Evelyn, he answered on the first ring, relief flooding his voice. Thank God. I've been trying to figure out what to do all morning. The inspection report came back yesterday afternoon. There's a problem with the concrete pour on the east wing. It didn't meet specifications. The inspector is saying it needs to be redone. How bad? I asked, already running through the calculations in my head. Worst case, we're looking at a 2-month delay. Best case, a month. And the cost to redo it. Evelyn, it's going to be close to $2 million. $2 million. That was the entire profit margin on this project. Maybe more. Has Michael seen the report? I asked. He glanced at it this morning and told me to figure it out. He said something about having a board meeting and that he'd get back to me. Evelyn, he doesn't understand what this means. He doesn't know how to talk to the client about this. He doesn't know the contractor who did the pour. He doesn't know anything. Of course he didn't. Because I'd been the one managing all of that. I'd been the one who knew which contractors were reliable, which ones cut corners, which ones could be trusted with a project of this magnitude. I'd been the one who caught problems before they became catastrophes. Okay, I said, my mind already working through the solution. Here's what you do. Don't tell the client anything yet. I'm going to call the concrete contractor. I think it's Valdez Concrete, right? Yes, but I'm going to find out exactly what happened and whether this is a fixable issue or if we need to start over. Then we'll have a real conversation with the client. Don't let Michael talk to them until we know what we're dealing with. Tell him I said so. Evelyn, you don't work here anymore. I know, I said quietly. But I still know how to do this job better than anyone there. Just trust me. One more time. I hung up and immediately called Valdez Concrete. Roberto Valdez had been working with Hartwell Construction for 8 years. I'd hired him personally. We had a good relationship. He answered on the second ring. Evelyn, I heard what happened. I'm sorry, that's... Roberto, I need to know about the Riverside Commons pour. What went wrong? There was a pause. You already know? I know the inspection failed. I need to know why. It was the weather, he said, and I could hear the frustration in his voice. We had that unexpected cold snap last week. The temperature dropped to 42 degrees overnight, and the concrete didn't cure properly. It's not a structural failure. The concrete is sound. It just didn't meet the specification requirements because of the temperature issue. It's fixable. We can do a surface treatment, add reinforcement, and it'll be stronger than the original. But whoever's managing this project now doesn't understand that. They're talking about tearing it all out and starting over. Michael, I said. Yeah, he called me this morning. Didn't listen to anything I said. Just kept asking how much it would cost to redo it. How much for the fix you're talking about? $250,000. Maybe $300 if we need to do more reinforcement than I think. But Evelyn, it's the right solution. The concrete is fine. It just needs some work. I closed my eyes. $250,000 versus $2 million. The difference between a manageable problem and a disaster. Hey, I said. Here's what I need you to do. Send me the full inspection report and your assessment. I'm going to make sure the client understands what actually happened and what the real solution is. Don't let anyone tell you to tear it out and start over until we've had that conversation. You're not working there anymore, Roberto said carefully. No, I agreed. But I'm still the person who knows how to fix this. By 10 a.m., I had the inspection report, Roberto's assessment, and a detailed plan for how to move forward. I also had a list of every major client Hartwell Construction was working with, their contact information and the status of their projects. All information I'd kept meticulously organized and thankfully had backed up to my personal cloud storage before I left. I was sitting in that hotel room, laptop open, when my phone rang. It was my father. Evelyn, where are you? He asked, his voice tight. At a hotel, I said. Why? We need to talk. Can you come to the office? No, I said simply. I was escorted out yesterday by security. I'm not welcome there anymore, remember? This is serious. There's a problem with one of the projects. I know, I said. Riverside Commons. The foundation inspection failed. There was a long silence. How do you know that? Because Marcus called me. Because I still know how to do my job and the people you left in charge don't. Dad, you made a huge mistake. Come back. We need you. No, I said, and I meant it. You need to learn what you've done. You need to understand what it means to not have me there. And then maybe you'll understand my value. I hung up. By noon Michael was calling. Then Catherine. Then my mother. Then Gerald, the family lawyer, with some threat about me interfering with company business. I ignored all of them. Instead, I called the client on Riverside Commons directly. I knew the project manager there, David Rothstein, personally. We'd worked together for 2 years. David, it's Evelyn Hartwell, I said when he answered. Evelyn, I heard you left the company. What happened? Family politics, I said. But that's not why I'm calling. I understand you received an inspection report on the foundation. Yeah, and frankly I'm freaking out. Your brother said we might need to tear out the entire east wing and start over. That's going to push us back months and cost a fortune. It's not that bad, I said calmly. Can I send you a detailed assessment? I've already talked to the concrete contractor. The issue is fixable with a surface treatment and reinforcement. It'll cost about $250,000, take about 3 weeks, and the result will actually be stronger than the original. The inspection failure was due to a weather issue during curing, not a structural problem. How do you know all this already? David asked. Because I've been managing this project since day one, I said. And I'm not going to let Hartwell Construction's incompetence destroy a project I spent 2 years building. Look, I'm sending you the full assessment now. Review it with your structural engineer. I'm confident you'll agree that this is the right solution. I sent the documents and waited. 20 minutes later, David called back. Evelyn, this is exactly what we needed. I showed it to our engineer and he agrees completely. This is the right approach. But your brother told me this morning that Hartwell Construction was recommending a complete redo. What's going on over there? What's going on, I said carefully, is that I'm no longer with the company, and the people who are don't have the expertise to manage a project of this complexity. But I'm going to make sure you get the right solution anyway. By 2 p.m. my father was calling again. This time I answered. We need you to come back, he said without preamble. Michael is in over his head. Catherine doesn't know what she's doing. We're losing control of multiple projects. I know, I said. Can we talk about this? Can we work something out? No, I said. You made your choice. Now you get to live with it. I hung up again. But I didn't stop working. I spent the rest of that day and all through the night making calls. To Marcus. To Roberto. To David. To every project manager, every contractor, every client relationship I'd spent 15 years building. I gave them my personal number. I told them that if they needed help navigating the transition at Hartwell Construction, I was available. I wasn't trying to sabotage the company. I was trying to save the projects I'd built. By Wednesday morning, 3 more clients had called my father demanding to speak with me directly. 2 contractors had threatened to walk off their jobs if Michael didn't get his act together. And the Riverside Commons project was back on track with a clear plan forward. My father called at 8 a.m. Please, he said. Just come back. We'll fix this. We'll make it right. You had your chance, I said. You chose to push me out. Now you get to watch what happens when I'm gone. I ended the call and blocked his number. By Thursday it was falling apart completely. I wasn't trying to destroy Hartwell Construction. I wasn't sabotaging anything. I was simply not there to fix things anymore. And it turned out that almost everything that ran smoothly at that company ran smoothly because of me. The first real crisis hit at 9:47 a.m. when Michael called Marcus in a panic. According to Marcus, who texted me immediately, Michael had just realized that there were 3 major permit issues across different projects that he didn't know how to handle. Permits that I'd been managing, tracking, and renewing without anyone even knowing they existed. One permit was expiring in 2 days. Another had a compliance issue that needed to be addressed with the city. The third was for a project in Oklahoma that required a specific type of inspection that Michael didn't even know was necessary. Marcus sent me the details and I immediately called the city planning department. I knew the person there, Janet, personally. We'd worked together for years. Janet, it's Evelyn Hartwell, I said. Evelyn, I heard you left Hartwell Construction. Everything okay? Not really, I said. But I'm calling about the permit for the Westbrook Commons project. I know there's a compliance issue. Can we schedule a meeting to discuss it? Of course. When can you come in? Actually, I said carefully, I'm not with the company anymore. But I want to make sure this gets handled correctly. Can I send you a detailed proposal for how to address the compliance issue? And then maybe you could meet with whoever's managing it now. Sure, Janet said. But Evelyn, if you're not with the company, why are you handling this? Because I care about the project, I said. And I want to make sure it doesn't fall apart. I sent Janet a comprehensive proposal that afternoon. By Friday morning, she'd approved it and scheduled a meeting with Michael to walk him through the requirements. Michael had no idea what he was doing. According to Marcus, who was now texting me hourly updates on the chaos unfolding at the office, Michael sat through the entire meeting looking confused and kept asking questions that made it clear he didn't understand basic aspects of the permitting process. But he was learning. Slowly, painfully, he was learning what I'd been doing all along. Thursday afternoon brought another crisis. One of our major subcontractors, a framing company we'd worked with for years, called Michael to say they were pulling off the North Side residential project because they hadn't been paid for work completed 3 months ago. Michael panicked. He called my father. My father called me. I didn't answer. Instead, I called the framing company directly. I knew the owner, Tom, personally. We'd had drinks together at industry events. We'd built a relationship based on trust and reliability. Tom, it's Evelyn, I said. Evelyn. Thank God. I just told your company I'm pulling my crew off the North Side project. I can't keep working without getting paid. I've got payroll to meet. I know, I said. And you're right to push back. But before you walk, let me see what I can do. Can you give me until tomorrow morning? Evelyn, you don't work there anymore. I know, I said. But I'm going to make sure you get paid anyway. I called my father back. The framing company is pulling off North Side because they haven't been paid. You need to cut them a check immediately. Like today. How much? My father asked. I don't know exactly, but it's substantial. Probably 80 to 100,000. Michael should have records of the invoices. Michael says he doesn't know anything about this. Of course he didn't. Because I'd been the one managing vendor payments, tracking invoices and making sure our contractors got paid on time. It was one of the things that kept them loyal to us, that made them want to work with us again and again. Then find out, I said. And pay them. Today. Or you're going to lose that contractor and everyone else is going to hear about it. My father paid them. By Friday morning, Tom had confirmed that the check cleared and his crew was back on the job. But the damage was done. Word was spreading through the construction community that Hartwell Construction was in chaos. That the new leadership didn't know what they were doing. That projects were falling behind and vendors weren't getting paid. By Friday afternoon, I had calls from 3 different contractors asking if I was starting my own company. They wanted in. I didn't answer those calls. Not yet. Instead, I sat in that hotel room and watched my family's company unravel in real time. I watched my father's desperation grow with each passing hour. I watched Michael realize that running a construction company was infinitely more complex than he'd ever imagined. I watched Catherine try to manage operations without any actual operational experience. And I felt something I didn't expect to feel. Sadness. Not for them. For what could have been if they'd just trusted me. If they'd just let me keep doing what I was good at. Friday evening, my father showed up at the hotel. I was in the lobby when he walked in, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Tired. Defeated. We need to talk, he said. Hey, I said. Let's talk. We went to my room. He sat on the edge of the bed like he was afraid to get too comfortable, like he knew he wasn't welcome here. I made a mistake, he said quietly. A terrible mistake. I didn't say anything. I just waited. Michael convinced me that you were becoming too powerful. That you were making decisions without consulting the family. That we needed to reassert control. And I listened to him instead of listening to you. Instead of trusting you. Yes, I said. You did. We've lost 3 major clients in the last 2 days, he continued. They're saying they don't trust the new management. They want you back or they're taking their business elsewhere. We have permit issues we don't know how to handle. We have contractors threatening to walk. We have projects that are falling behind schedule. And I have no idea how to fix any of it. I know, I said. Come back, he said, and there was a crack in his voice. Please. Come back and help us fix this. I looked at my father, really looked at him. This man who'd built something incredible and then handed it over to people who didn't deserve it. This man who'd chosen his son's ambition over his daughter's competence. On what terms? I asked. Whatever you want, he said. Your old job back. A raise. A title. Ownership stake. Whatever it takes. I want to be CO, I said. Not in title but in practice. I want final say on all major decisions. I want Michael and Catherine out of operational roles. I want my non-compete agreement voided. And I want a written agreement that this never happens again. My father nodded slowly. Hey, yes. All of that. We'll make it happen. And I want an apology, I said. A real one. In front of the entire company. You're going to tell them that you made a mistake, that I'm the one who's been running this company, and that you're sorry for ever doubting me. I'll do it, he said. Monday morning. All hands meeting. I stood up and walked to the window looking out at the Dallas skyline. The city that I'd helped build one project at a time. Hey, I said. I'll come back. Monday morning I walked back into the Hartwell building at 7:30 a.m. before anyone else arrived. The security guard at the desk did a double take when he saw me. Miss Hartwell, he said, confused. I thought, didn't you? I'm back, I said simply. It's okay. I took the elevator to the 23rd floor and walked into my old office. Everything was exactly as I'd left it. My desk, my chair, my files. It was like I'd never left. By 8 a.m., my father had sent out an emergency all-hands meeting notice. By 8:45 a.m., everyone was assembled in the main conference room. My father stood at the front of the room looking uncomfortable. Michael and Catherine sat in the front row, both looking like they wanted to disappear. I need to say something, my father began, his voice steady but emotional. I made a decision last week that I deeply regret. I removed Evelyn from her position as head of operations, believing that we needed new leadership and fresh perspectives. I was wrong. The room was silent. In the 4 days that Evelyn has not been here, we've lost 3 major clients, faced multiple permit crises, had contractors threaten to walk off jobs, and nearly lost a $2 million project to a management failure. I've realized that Evelyn hasn't just been doing her job, she's been doing everyone's job. She's been the backbone of this company, and without her we're falling apart. He paused, looking directly at me. Evelyn, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for not trusting you. I'm sorry for listening to people who didn't understand what you do. I'm sorry for pushing you out. And I'm asking you to come back not as head of operations, but as the person who actually runs this company. Because that's what you've been doing all along. The room erupted. People were standing up, clapping. Derek was grinning at me from the back. Marcus looked relieved. Even some of the contractors who were in the room looked satisfied. I stood up and walked to the front of the room. My father stepped aside, giving me the space. Thank you, I said to him. Then I turned to face the company. I'm not going to pretend this week didn't happen, I said. I'm not going to pretend that I wasn't hurt or angry, or that I didn't seriously consider never coming back. But I'm here because I love this company. I love what we build. I love the people we work with. And I love the projects we create. I looked at Michael and Catherine. I'm also not going to pretend that everything is fine. There are going to be changes. Real changes. Michael, you're going to step back from the CFO role and work with our finance director to actually learn how this company operates. Catherine, you're going to focus on what you do well, marketing and client relations, and you're going to stop pretending to understand operations. And both of you are going to report to me. Michael looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. For everyone else, I continued, things are going back to normal. We're going to fix the projects that are behind schedule. We're going to rebuild the client relationships that were damaged. We're going to make sure every contractor gets paid on time. And we're going to prove that Hartwell Construction is the most reliable, most professional construction company in Texas. I paused, letting that sink in. But I'm also going to make some changes for myself. I'm going to hire an operations manager to help me. I'm going to delegate more. I'm going to stop trying to do everything alone. Because I've learned something this week. I'm valuable not because I'm the only one who can do this job, but because I know how to do it better than anyone else. And I'm going to spend my time doing what I do best, not drowning in details. Over the next few weeks, things shifted. I brought in a talented operations manager named Sarah Chin, who had experience with large-scale construction projects. I trained her on everything I knew. I started delegating more. I stopped trying to be everywhere at once. The Riverside Commons project got back on track. The permit issues were resolved. The contractors came back. The clients came back. And my family learned what it meant to actually run a business. My father never tried to push me out again. He stepped fully into an advisory role and let me lead. Michael eventually found his place in the company, not as CFO, but as a project manager for smaller residential developments. Catherine actually became quite good at client relations once she stopped pretending to understand operations. Me. I became the CEO in title as well as practice. Not because I demanded it, but because it was the only logical choice. The company grew. We took on bigger projects. We expanded into New Mexico and Arizona. We won industry awards. We became known as one of the most reliable construction companies in the Southwest. But more importantly, I learned something about myself. I learned that my value wasn't in being indispensable. It was in being excellent. I learned that I could be pushed out and survive. I learned that I could walk away and let people fail, and that sometimes that's the only way they learn. And I learned that family is complicated. My father loved me, but he'd let ambition and family politics cloud his judgment. My siblings loved me, but they'd been jealous of my success. My mother loved me, but she'd been more concerned with keeping the peace than with standing up for what was right. But they'd also learned. They'd learned to respect me, to value me, to understand that I wasn't just the person who made their lives easier. I was the person who made their company possible. 6 months after I came back, my father called me into his office. "I want to make you a partner," he said. "Not just CEO, a real partner. Ownership stake. The whole thing." "Why?" I asked. "Because you've earned it," he said simply. "And because I never want to forget what it felt like to almost lose you." I accepted. And for the first time in my career at Hartwell Construction, I felt like I truly belonged there. Not because I was indispensable, but because I was valued. And that made all the difference. My own family forced me out of the company. 24 hours later, they were desperate. I never saw it coming. Not like this. For 15 years, I've been the backbone of Hartwell Construction, the family business my grandfather started in 1968. 15 years of waking up at 5 a.m., walking job sites in Texas heat that could melt asphalt, negotiating with contractors, managing budgets that stretched into the millions, and keeping every single project on schedule and under budget. 15 years of being the one they called when something went wrong. And something always went wrong. My father, Richard Hartwell, built the company into something respectable. But it was me, Evelyn, who transformed it into what it became. A multi-million-dollar operation with 47 active projects across Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. Residential developments, commercial complexes, mixed-use properties. I knew every detail. Every permit. Every subcontractor. Every client relationship that mattered. My brother Michael was the CFO on paper. In reality, he spent most of his time in the office, delegating to his assistant, attending lunches with people who didn't matter, and taking credit for decisions I made. My sister, Catherine, ran marketing and communications, which meant she posted pretty pictures of our completed projects on Instagram and attended charity galas. My mother, Patricia, sat on the board and made decisions based on gossip and family politics rather than actual business sense. And my father? He'd stepped back 5 years ago, handing the day-to-day operations to me while keeping the title of CEO. He trusted me. Or at least I thought he did. The Monday morning started like any other. I was in my office on the 23rd floor of the Hartwell Building in downtown Dallas, reviewing blueprints for the Riverside Commons project, our biggest development yet. 340 units, mixed income, LEED certified. We were 6 months ahead of schedule. The client was thrilled. We were about to turn a $12 million profit. My assistant Derek knocked on the door around 9 a.m. "Your father wants to see you. Conference room. Now." I didn't think anything of it. Dad called meetings all the time. Usually to ask my opinion on something, or to have me present numbers to the board. I grabbed my tablet and headed down the hallway. But when I walked into that conference room, I knew something was wrong. They were all there. Dad, Michael, Catherine, my mother, and our family lawyer Gerald Finch. No one was smiling. The air felt thick, suffocating. My father wouldn't meet my eyes. "Evelyn, sit down," he said quietly. I sat. "We've made a decision," he continued, his voice steady but hollow. "As a family, we've decided that it's time for new leadership. Fresh perspectives. We think you've been carrying too much for too long, and we want to give you the opportunity to step back. To rest. To focus on your personal life." I stared at him. For a moment, I couldn't process what he was saying. "What are you talking about?" I asked. Michael cleared his throat. "We're restructuring. I'm going to take over as CEO. Catherine will handle operations. We're bringing in an external consultant to help with the transition." My mother reached across the table and patted my hand like I was a child. "Sweetheart, you've worked so hard. You deserve a break." That's when I understood. This wasn't about my well-being. This was about power. This was about them finally deciding they didn't need me anymore. Or worse, that I was in their way. "You can't do this," I said, my voice steady even though my hands were shaking. "I have contracts. I have relationships with every major client we work with. I'm the only one who understands the Riverside Commons project well enough to." "Gerald has prepared a severance package," my father interrupted, sliding a folder across the table. "It's generous. 2 years of salary, health insurance through the end of the year, and a non-compete agreement." A non-compete. They were locking me out of the industry I'd spent my entire adult life building. "Dad, you can't be serious. This is insane. Let's talk about this. If there's a problem, we can fix it. If you want me to step back from day-to-day operations, fine, but this. Your employment is terminated effective immediately," Gerald said, his tone clinical. "You'll need to clear your office by end of business today. Security will escort you out. I looked at my father. Really looked at him. Waiting for him to say something. To stand up for me. To tell them this was a mistake, that they were overreacting, that we could work through whatever this was. He looked away. My mother was studying her nails. Michael was already checking his phone. Catherine was staring at the table like she was uncomfortable but not uncomfortable enough to say anything. I stood up slowly. You're making a mistake, I said quietly. All of you. You have no idea what you're doing. We'll figure it out, Michael said with a confidence that made my stomach turn. I walked out of that conference room and back to my office in a daze. Derek was waiting outside my door, his face pale. He already knew. Everyone probably already knew. They'd planned this, discussed it, decided my fate without ever asking me what I wanted or what I thought. I spent the next 2 hours boxing up my things. 15 years of work. Awards from the Texas Construction Association. Photos with clients at ribbon cuttings. My grandfather's original business license framed on the wall. I packed it all carefully, methodically, refusing to let myself cry until I was alone in my car. By 3 p.m. I was driving away from the Hartwell building with everything I owned from that office in the trunk of my car. No severance negotiation. No exit interview. No goodbye from anyone who mattered. I drove to a hotel near the airport and checked in under my own name. Not as Evelyn Hartwell but just as Evelyn. I ordered room service I didn't eat and sat on the bed staring at the severance agreement they'd given me. 2 years of salary. It was enough to live on but not enough to start over. Not enough to launch my own firm, hire staff, build a client base. Not enough to compete with Hartwell Construction, which was exactly the point of the non-compete clause. They'd taken everything. My career, my identity, my place in the family business that I'd bled for. And they had no idea what they'd just done. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in that hotel room watching the clock tick toward midnight, my phone buzzing with messages I didn't read. Texts from colleagues asking if I was okay. Emails from people who'd heard the news. A call from my mother that I let go to voicemail. By 6 a.m. I was showered, dressed, and sitting in the hotel lobby with coffee I didn't want, scrolling through my email on my phone. The first sign of trouble came at 7:43 a.m.